Would you like to learn simple yet powerful practices to overcome burnout and energetic overwhelm, helping you as an empath feel more energized, balanced, and in control of safeguarding your sensitive soul? You're listening to or watching the Sedona Soul Sister Show, where we share psychic guidance and healing for embodied spiritual awakening. I'm Christel Arcucci, and I'm on a mission to support spiritual practitioners to access your intuition, unlock your psychic gifts, and live your purpose. A big thank you to all our listeners all over the world, and a special shout out and boost of love to our listeners in Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan. You can schedule sessions in West Sedona or virtual psychic readings, meet your angelic guides, starseed readings, Akashic recodes, soul contract work, Reiki, life coaching, and more at SedonaSoulSisters.com. Each breath you take aligned with love repairs the healing web on planet Earth. Burnout and psychic gifts don't necessarily have a direct connection. Burnout is a chronic state of stress and exhaustion resulting from prolonged periods of excessive physical, mental, or emotional demands. It can affect anyone regardless of whether they have psychic abilities or not. However, for individuals who possess psychic gifts or are empaths working in fields that involve intense emotional labor or energy work, burnout can be a particular concern. Here are the ways that burnout can impact empath and those experiencing a psychic awakening. Energetic depletion. Practicing psychic abilities such as clairvoyance, mediumship, or energy healing can be energetically draining, especially if not managed properly. Without adequate self-care and boundaries, psychics can experience burnout from constant energy expenditure. Empathic overload. Those with strong empathic abilities may absorb the emotions and energies of others, leading to emotional exhaustion and burnout if they don't have techniques to manage and release those energies. Psychic overwhelm. Constantly receiving psychic information, visions, or impressions can be overwhelming for some, leading to mental and emotional fatigue and burnout if not balanced with clearing and grounding practices. Boundary issues. Psychics, empaths, and energy workers may struggle with setting healthy boundaries, leading to overextending themselves and taking on too much emotional and energetic burden, contributing to burnout. Spiritual crisis. Intense spiritual or psychic experiences can sometimes trigger periods of confusion, doubt, depression, or existential questioning, which can be mentally and emotionally draining, increasing the risk of burnout. To prevent burnout or restore your system after burnout, individuals with psychic gifts and empaths need to prioritize self-care that is not just a to-do list. Establish boundaries, develop techniques for energy management, grounding, clearing, and protection. One of the aspects that made a profound difference for me in having healthy, energetic, mental, emotional boundaries was learning to practice what I call ecstatic empathy. Most empaths and those with psychic abilities are tuned in on a level of looking for pain or looking for problems or scanning the environment for potential triggers or challenges. And most often it is a state of hypervigilance, which is stress in the system and comes from being awakened as a child and being in an environment that didn't support you in taking good care of yourself or being taken care of or having healthy energetic boundaries. So shifting your awareness to include ecstatic empathy. And what that means is not only using your extrasensory perceptions to look for people's pain and challenges. And in a way, I encourage you to practice turning that off completely unless you are in an environment that your safety depends on scanning the environment for potential threats. Most of the time, it is just a habit to be in the state of hypervigilance or high stress. Shifting into the practice of ecstatic empathy is looking for beauty, looking for connection, looking for joy, and allowing that to impact and inspire your energy body. Here's a few examples. If I see a couple in a particular moment of sweetness, holding hands, or an embrace, or eye gazing, or simply the way they are with each other, there is a sense of delight and deep embodied love. I let that into my system. I allow myself to be an empath for joy, for love, and I soak that in. And another example is a child's joy, delight, wonder, sense of play. Watching a child play is a great place to practice ecstatic empathy. Can I open my channels of receiving to receive that joy, innocence, play, wonder, awe, allowing that into my system? Those are two simple examples that in general you may see in your everyday experience. But often when our system is trained and in the habit to scan for potential problems, we don't even see those. We don't even see the ecstatic empathy opportunities because they're not a threat. They are a threat to the habit and the pattern of being in a state of hypervigilance. And it is a practice to tune your energy into those experiences that you see in public places or even on social media, on television, in movies that are ecstatic empathy opportunities. And experiment with allowing yourself to receive that feeling and make that part of your practice and actively turn down the looking for people's pain or looking for people's pain body or evaluating in your mind the way that you may be able to help someone, turning down the ways that you may be receiving information for strangers on how to navigate challenges, turning that down and pouring more energy and attention into ecstatic empathy. And this is something that you can even establish for yourself. Make a photo album on your phone or a short video. If they are your own images and videos, and you take a moment to really be in the experience of ecstatic empathy, it can shift your state out of stress into a neutral or even an elevated state in just a moment. Yet it is an active practice to be able to allow the good feelings in. Allow yourself to be an empath, to be tuned in to what other people are feeling when they are positive emotions, positive mental states, soulful experiences. And then that practice expands into creating more moments for yourself to feel good, to dial down the stress in your system. Often on the show, I am talking about regulating your nervous system, and that is simply beginning to notice that you are in a stressed state and doing active movement, breath, and sound practices to dial down the stress response in your system. And the good news is anywhere you are, you can move and breathe. Even if you're in a meeting, you could gently with your hands under the table, you could move your hands, you could move your ankles, you could rock back and forth. There are so many ways that you can do these practices. And breathing, if you are ever in an environment that somebody gets upset with you for breathing, obviously that won't last long. So in any environment, you can breathe more deeply. Breathe into your belly. Extend the exhale to make it longer than the inhale, which helps dial down the nervous system. Sounding, if you're with other people, isn't as easy to practice, yet you can create an internal sound. You can hum if you're in a public place and you don't want to speak out loud to yourself. Those are ways to dial down the stress in your system to make it more possible to be open to ecstatic empathy. Because part of it is, if you're in a state of stress and you are not breathing deeply, you're not in your body, your system isn't going to automatically let in good feelings. So when you see them, soften the edges, take a deeper breath. Make a conscious practice of opening to receive ecstatic empathy. Clear boundaries is the most important aspect of repairing, restoring your system after burnout, which for most empaths, healers, and psychics, it is probably the hardest one, because we likely weren't raised in an environment or a culture where having healthy personal boundaries were taught or modeled. One of the mantras that I repeat with my clients over and over and over again is, you are allowed to create and maintain healthy boundaries. Creating healthy boundaries with other people is one level of the practice. The one that is more challenging, that I speak about so often, is creating healthy boundaries with ourselves, which is much more challenging to do. So I encourage you to practice having healthier boundaries with yourself and with others. Being clear about when you want your gifts turned on or not is one way of practicing. Approaching strangers in public to tell them what I see about their pain body, I don't think that has ever gone well. And I also stopped doing it a long time ago. Learning healthy boundaries and learning to turn my gifts off in public places, I learned to do that many years ago. But in the early days, when I didn't have a human teacher to tell me about this, it was always on. I was always looking at people's pain body and ways I could help. Now, if there's somebody that I'm in a conversation or a connection with, and I feel a really strong intuition to share something with them 3 times, I will ask if they want the information. But also, when I'm asking, I'm not only listening for them to say yes, I'm also watching and observing their body language, because most people aren't good at saying no. So if they say yes, but their body language says no, then I will redirect and say, it doesn't feel like the right fit for me to share this with you. But it's not that often that I actually ask anyone anymore. And I don't approach strangers asking them. But I also no longer go into public places being attuned to people's pain body. Sometimes it's really loud and I will see it. But as soon as I notice that I'm tuned into their pain body, I shift my awareness. I shift to be more fully in my body. I take a deeper breath. And sometimes I will do what I call offering healing at their feet, or sharing a blessing that I energetically offer at their feet. Because the way I practice, I never want to push energy into anyone without their permission. So if it's a stranger and I see an activation of their pain body, I could just push energy into them, healing energy. That seems good and right and well, doesn't it? Not from my perspective. So what I do is make an offering of healing that their wisdom or higher guidance or higher self can open to receive if it's in their highest and best interest. Even if on social media, many times in my community, people will ask for prayers for themselves or a family member. If someone asks for prayers or healing or guidance, if they ask for it, then yes, I will fully extend it if it's a clear request. But if it's a request for a family member, I will do the same thing where it's like I will offer healing to my friend that made the request, but then I will offer, instead of extend, the healing guidance or support to the person that they are making the request for, so that they get to choose on a subconscious level whether they are open to receive it or not. For me, this basic practice, which is basic and not simple, to transition from your radar being constantly looking for people's activated pain bodies to noticing the pain body and shifting the attention for what beauty do I see? What else do I notice in the person other than having my radar on just looking for people's pain body? If someone's pain body is the only thing I'm open to, of course, that's what I'm going to see. But if I am in a practice of looking for beauty, looking for connection, looking for someone's deep soul expression through the activities that they're doing, then I begin to see a whole different experience and reality. Having healthy boundaries with yourself is so important, especially when it comes to self-care practices. The challenge I see with so many clients who are in burnout is that their self-care practices add more stress instead of reducing it. And part of why I see that happen is they make their self-care practices part of their to-do list. The things to just do, to check off. I did my gratitude journaling. I did my meditation. I took my supplements. I drank enough water. Even in saying it, I feel stressed because there's a certain energy that people do the self-care practices with, which is in what I would call a masculine override, which is not a deeply integrated presence of the healthy masculine. The masculine override happens in all genders, where it's just like, I got to do this thing, and it's from a state, and it's disconnected. It's like head up. Instead of the divine masculine presence is fully embodied. It is the connection of the mind, heart, and the body. And doing your self-care practices from that deep, profound state of presence and consciousness is where the healing happens, where you are giving to yourself the divine masculine and you are receiving as the divine feminine in your own being. And that's where healing the burnout happens. Another aspect that is so important in healing burnout for empaths, psychics, and healers is clearing and grounding practices. And as you know, I am a fan of doing things in the most embodied way. Most of us, especially in your early practice, if you only try to do practices in your mind, disconnected from your breath and your body, it won't be nearly as powerful, and sometimes it won't work at all, and it will just actually fuel the mental override pattern. Clearing practices. So when you can incorporate all of the elements which relate to the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and soul bodies, when you can incorporate all of those aspects, earth, water, fire, air, and space, when you include all of the elements into your clearing and grounding practices, it will transform your life. The 5 elements we work with here are earth, water, fire, air, and space. Clearing your physical, mental, emotional body. The simplest way to do that is to gently shake or vigorously shake if you really need to shake things loose. Also brushing the body, head to toe, brushing down the body. There are also implements that you can use for cleansing, clearing the body. Rattles, essential oils, hydrosols, which are a mix of herbs or essential oils, and spring water. Sound. You can use burning herbs like sage, palo santo, cedar. Cleansing with smoke is not ideal for me. I will do it when I need a really deep cleansing of a space and myself when the doors and windows are open. So keep in mind that not all cleansing practices are ideal for all people. I do use candles on a daily basis for making offerings. If using smoke isn't supported in your system, using candles, high quality beeswax candles, is a good way to bring the element of fire in, the power of transformation, without the element of smoke that burning herbs can bring in. In restoring your system after burnout, having ups and downs is a natural part of life. And the ideal situation in restoring your system after burnout is keeping in mind that it is a long-term practice. Being patient, gentle, and kind to support yourself in the process of finding the practices that support you in restoring your system. Sleep and rest is such an essential part of restoring your system after burnout. And unfortunately, in a burnout cycle, sometimes it can be really difficult to sleep. An important element, if you are struggling with sleep, is learn practices to dial down your nervous system to get in the most restful state possible. Sleep has been a challenge for me my entire life, and there have been different points in time where I couldn't sleep and I didn't manage the stress well, so I just got more and more stressed knowing that I wasn't sleeping well and knowing that demands of my next day. Now I have many tools to support me in recognizing when my system is so stressed that I can't sleep. I have learned to be able to dial down my system as much as possible so that I can repair and restore, which it's challenging when you're exhausted and you're not sleeping well. It's this downward spiral, yet learning the practices that support you, gentle movement, breath, sound, listening to healing music. I often will go to YouTube and find healing frequencies without words that help create a calmer container for my system. Food is an essential part of restoring your system after burnout as well, and finding the nutrition plan that most supports you. For me, I've mentioned many times that when I am stressed, I tend to not eat enough. When I'm stressed, I don't get hungry, and that increases stress in my system. So for me, it's managing that. Whereas other people, when they're stressed or in burnout, they will eat too much and make undesirable choices in relationship with food. So knowing all of these aspects are an essential part of restoring your system from burnout. Take it one step at a time. Pick one practice to really support yourself in cultivating, deepening, and then expanding from there. So like I said earlier, it doesn't become this override pattern in your mind where you're being hard on yourself for not doing it perfectly, not doing it right, and it adds more stress instead of gradually reducing stress so you can manage stress more gracefully and easily. I hope that all of the practices and insights I've shared in this episode are helpful to you. If you're watching this on YouTube and you have questions, you can post the comments below. If you're receiving this by email, you can email me back with questions, or if you're finding it on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, you can post your question in the comments. Thank you for being a part of our community. I'm honored to support your embodied spiritual awakening. Are you ready for a personalized rites of passage in Sedona with me? The Rites of Passage is an extraordinary 2-day private retreat in Sedona designed to support your embodied spiritual awakening. The pressure of the current global challenges are calling spiritual practitioners to embrace purpose, power, and pleasure on a profound level. If you're passionate about awakening the divine within and are ready to embody your legacy, step into leadership, and live your purpose, this in-person immersion is for you. Schedule your life-changing private retreat in Sedona at sedonasoulsisters.com/purpose. Leave a review and follow on your favorite podcast app. Until next time, breathe gently, listen to your guidance, and create miracles.